The whole industry's gone cold, colder than it's been in decades. Not since the Golden Legends ruled Hollywood has there been this kind of eerie, frozen silence. It's not just sadness, it's that deep chill running through every studio and set. Behind closed doors, when whispers first spread about that quiet home in Brentwood, everyone expected the usual. A polished statement, some careful PR lines, and then total silence. But this time, everything flipped overnight.
Now, as we know, 32-year-old Nick Reiner has been formally charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in connection with the apparent stabbing deaths of his parents, renowned director Rob Reiner and photographer and producer Michelle Singer Reiner, who were found dead in their Los Angeles home back on December 14th.
Out of nowhere, Tom Cruise stepped up himself. No handlers, no delay, no scripted lines. He dropped everything and spoke straight from the heart. And that's what stunned everyone. It wasn't some strategic stunt. This was raw, real, and personal. The most private guy in Hollywood suddenly broke all his own rules. It hit like thunder. No spokesperson, no cameras chasing him. He spoke directly because, as he told those close to him, the truth matters. Whatever really went down between Rob and Michelle Reiner, it's something he believes he owes to the man who helped shape his career when it mattered most. What Tom's been quietly sharing with close friends is way deeper and way more emotional than anyone expected. Those early reports barely scratched the surface. If you remember the early 90s, you already know what Tom and Rob built together. A few good men. But Tom isn't talking about fame or box office wins this time. He's talking about Rob Reiner, the man behind the camera who became a mentor, a protector, and someone carrying a heavy heart for years over his son Nick. And he carried that pain mostly in silence. This isn't Hollywood gossip. Everyone in the circle knows that. This is real, and it's shaking people to the core like nothing else. The whispers aren't playful anymore, and the silence feels thick. It's the kind of silence that makes people uncomfortable. Those close to Tom say his whole vibe has changed. His usual unstoppable energy is gone, replaced by something quieter, heavier, almost haunted. It's like everything he's learning hit him all at once and left a mark you can't hide. This isn't just about losing a filmmaking legend. It's about watching a family he's loved for decades slowly fall apart before his eyes. And according to those who were there, December 14th started like any other long night. Tom was deep in a late production meeting when his phone buzzed. On the other end, a longtime Los Angeles law enforcement contact, someone he's trusted since his earliest days shooting in the city. The second that call connected, everything changed. 2 names were said, Rob and Michelle, then total silence. What came next froze Tom in place. He didn't speak for minutes, just stared out at the Melissa Sue was not all Robert Reiner helped build. It was not Robert. The official report sounded cold and clinical, calling it a domestic incident involving serious injuries. But insiders swear those words don't come close to what investigators actually walked into that night.
There is footage that has surfaced that's been released of apparently Nick allegedly walking alone at a gas station close to the Reiner family home a little after midnight on that Sunday. There's also apparently footage of him allegedly in a convenience store right before his arrest as well. By the way, I will tell you, I think his apparent demeanor in that footage, assuming it's him, could be critical in a potential defense, which I'll talk about more in a minute.
And this is where Tom's story turns darker, because he's not just talking about what happened. He's talking about why. Tom admitted he knew tensions between Nick and his parents had been boiling for months. During a private dinner earlier this year, Rob got uncharacteristically quiet when the topic shifted to his kids. For a man known for lighting up every room, that silence said everything. Now, people close to the family say that moment might have been the warning no one caught. Back then, nobody realized what Rob meant when he said the cycle was getting harder to break. He wasn't being casual. He was talking about years of pain, resentment, and emotional strain that had built up way beyond any normal family tension. This wasn't just some phase or rebellious streak anymore. It had turned into something heavier, darker, and painfully complicated. What keeps Tom up at night is realizing this didn't just explode out of nowhere. He says it was the result of months, maybe even years, of pressure quietly building behind closed doors. Rob and Michelle tried to heal things with love, but without setting real boundaries to protect themselves, and that truth cuts deep. Tom believes Hollywood's respect for the Reiners' privacy ran so deep that no one ever stepped in or asked the tough questions when it could have made a difference. Looking back now, even a short message Rob once sent about the cost of legacy feels completely different. It's no longer just reflective. It sounds like a warning that everything was starting to spin out of control. Then came the moment no one could comprehend: Nick Reiner's arrest. The charges stunned Hollywood and sent shockwaves through the A-list circle. Tom couldn't ignore the cruel irony. The man behind one of cinema's most iconic courtroom lines was suddenly forced to face a brutal truth in his own life. Investigators stayed tight-lipped, but through Tom's private talks, a darker, more unsettling story has started to surface. This wasn't random. It wasn't some chaotic twist of fate. There were no signs of a break-in, no theft, no stranger in the mix. This was personal, painfully personal, targeted, and heartbreakingly intimate. Tom's made one thing crystal clear: he's not buying the neat, polished version of events. While the defense gears up to talk about pressure and mental health, Tom says Rob Reiner would have wanted truth over excuses and accountability over spin. But what truly breaks him is Michelle. While the world's eyes were on Rob, Tom always understood the power of their partnership. He says Michelle was the rhythm, the balance, the calm heartbeat behind everything they built together. And now that she's gone, that emptiness is echoing everywhere. What hit Tom hardest wasn't just losing Rob, it was what happened to Michelle. She was the quiet strength behind his brilliance. And hearing she was hurt with the same intensity turned this from a tragedy into something that felt like deep betrayal. Tom says Michelle had always been the peacemaker, the one who stepped in when tension between Nick and his father started to boil. She shielded Rob when things got rough, absorbing the stress so he wouldn't break. And the fact that she ended up caught in the same violent act tells Tom this was no accident. In his mind, it feels deliberate, controlled, and deeply disturbing. That's why he believes the upcoming January 7th trial will be one of the most emotional courtroom moments the state's ever witnessed. As more of Tom's timeline surfaces, one truth's getting too big to ignore. Hollywood's silence wasn't just about respect, it was fear. Fear of facing how close to home this really hit, and how easily it could have happened to anyone living behind those fancy gates and guarded walls. Now Tom's demanding Hollywood take a hard look at how it handles private family crises, the ones quietly buried under fame, money, and carefully managed images. He's calling for a real change in how the industry supports its own, once the cameras shut off and the pain starts for real. Tom's been staying in touch with Rob and Michelle's sons, Roy and Jake Reiner, who friends say are barely holding it together, still trying to make sense of how their own brother ended up behind bars in Los Angeles County. The shock is unreal. The heartbreak is crushing. But for Tom, this isn't just about grief, it's about truth. He says the myth of the Brentwood bubble is dead. The illusion that wealth, legacy, and influence can protect anyone has completely shattered. Even Hollywood's most admired families couldn't escape a storm quietly brewing inside their own walls. And what's breaking people the most is Tom's last conversation with Rob Reiner. They were planning a retrospective project, a tribute to Rob's career. And during that talk, Rob said something that now haunts Tom. The stories we tell on screen are easy, because we control the ending. Real life is the only script that scares me. Those words hit like a punch now, echoing through every studio in town. At first, Rob's words sounded reflective, but now they feel like a warning. By the next morning, Tom finally understood what Rob meant, and that realization hit him like a brick. He's vowed to be there for the trial, not just watching, but standing up for his mentor's legacy. He refuses to let Rob's name get buried under a storm of headlines about his son. What makes it even heavier is what investigators later confirmed. Before Nick Reiner was arrested, he'd been moving around Los Angeles for hours. Tom says the image that haunts him most is knowing the city stayed glowing and alive, while that house in Brentwood sat in silence. That contrast, light and life outside, pure stillness inside, won't leave his mind. Tom's firm about one thing: this wasn't impulse, and it wasn't panic. Whoever left that house didn't flee. They walked out calm, while chaos surrounded them. And when Tom says Hollywood's shaken, he means it. He's hinting that there's evidence, stuff not even shown in court yet, messages, recordings, proof that Mick had been pulling away from his family long before anyone caught on. To the public, this might seem like another shocking headline that'll fade in time, but to Tom, it's the end of an entire Hollywood era. That's why he's speaking now, before the trial noise takes over, and lawyers twist the story into something else entirely. Tom wants the truth locked in before the noise of the trial takes over. He says Rob and Michelle Reiner weren't victims of random chance. They were victims of love with no limits. That same unconditional devotion they gave their son became the very thing that turned against them. And Tom says that's the most brutal lesson of all. The quiet battles behind Hollywood's polished image are often the most dangerous. And when January hits, the world's gonna see details that can't be ignored. Even now, Tom insists the injuries weren't random. They showed intensity, built up resentment, years of emotional pressure finally exploding all at once. That's the image Tom can't erase, the one that rewrites everything he thought he knew. Investigators had reportedly uncovered messages that changed the entire story, evidence showing patterns of pressure, control, and what insiders are calling direct manipulation aimed at Rob and Michelle. If those messages hit the courtroom, sources say the defense is in for a brutal uphill fight. This has gone far beyond Hollywood's shiny reputation or careful image control. For Tom, this isn't about publicity. It's about losing someone who felt like a spiritual father. And even more painful, it's about realizing that Hollywood, with all its power, money, and glamour, might have unknowingly sheltered something deeply broken behind its perfectly closed doors. Tom didn't break his silence for attention. He did it because he refuses to let Rob Reiner be remembered only through tragedy. This was the man who taught him discipline, compassion, and restraint. The mentor who kept him grounded when fame could have swallowed him whole. Tom says the only way to truly honor Rob is by making sure the full emotional truth comes out, no matter how painful it gets. As the January 7th trial draws closer, the truth Tom's guarding feels like the final shield protecting Rob's legacy. Quiet talk among security teams and private staff paints a chilling picture of what really went down that night. What they describe isn't just conflict, it's betrayal at the most personal level, right where love and trust were supposed to keep everyone safe. Sources say the confrontation happened inside the Reiner home, in rooms meant for comfort and peace, and that detail alone has left everyone shaken. What's haunting Tom the most is one gut-wrenching realization. Rob never saw it coming. To Tom, that suggests trust, hesitation, maybe even love holding him back in a moment when instinct should have taken over. That thought hits hard. It ties into what Tom calls boundless love, something once discussed by Aaron Sorkin, but now heartbreakingly real. In Hollywood, protecting feelings too long often turns into avoiding the truth, and this time, that silence cost everything. In Hollywood, problems usually get smoothed over, polished up, and quietly swept aside. But this time, Tom says that cycle has to end. What's eating him alive is how this moment casts such a dark shadow over Castle Rock Entertainment, a company that once stood for heart, meaning, and human connection. The irony that Rob's own story reached such a cold, heartbreaking ending is something Tom says he can barely process. He's been reaching out to people he trusts, big names like Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks, trying to figure out how to support Roy and Jake Reiner, the two brothers now left carrying an impossible weight. They're juggling a massive estate while facing the harsh reality of their brother staring down life-changing charges. Tom keeps saying, this isn't about one tragic night. It's about the emptiness that's now hanging over Hollywood's creative and charitable world. Rob wasn't just a filmmaker. He was a mentor, a guide, the steady hand behind so many rising stars. His absence has left a gap no one seems able to fill. Tom's also revealed he's seen internal records linked to Meek Reiner's past recovery efforts, and what he learned hit hard. Rob personally managed every detail with extreme discretion, pouring in time, money, and care, not just to help his son heal, but to protect the family from public scrutiny. Every time Nick stumbled, Rob created another safety net, another second chance, built from love, loyalty, and the privileges that came with his name. Now Tom's questioning that whole system out loud. He believes Hollywood's instinct to protect its own, to delay accountability, might have played a devastating role by shielding Nick from real consequences for far too long. Tom says the industry built a dangerous illusion, that with enough money and love, anything could be fixed later. But that illusion's been shattered completely, and now Hollywood's being forced to face the truth it's dodged for years. Tom's account also adds a chilling digital layer that's just starting to surface. Investigators are digging through online activity and private files linked to Mick. Posts filled with reflections on identity, pressure, and the heavy weight of carrying a famous name. Those words alone have rattled everyone who's seen them. To Tom, this wasn't about confusion or a sudden breakdown. It shows intent, a mindset built slowly over time. And what makes it worse is that money wasn't even a motive. Nick already had access to everything he could want. Tom believes the real motive was psychological, a desperate attempt to break free from an identity he couldn't live up to. People close to Tom say he's changed in ways you can see. The confident, unstoppable energy everyone associates with him is gone, replaced by quiet grief and exhaustion. He's not speaking like a movie star anymore. He's speaking like a man who's seen too much and can't unsee it. Tom's not speaking like a celebrity anymore. He's speaking like someone mourning the man who once kept him grounded when fame nearly tore him apart. He says Rob was the only director who could ever slow him down, the only one who made him feel scenes instead of just performing them. That loss, Tom admits, is one he'll carry for life. Rob didn't just teach him craft. He taught him timing, subtlety, and that signature walk-and-talk magic. But beyond filmmaking, Rob showed him something deeper: how to move with integrity in a town built on illusion. That's why this loss cuts so painfully deep. Tom says the hardest truth to face is that a man who embodied honesty, compassion, and loyalty in Hollywood was ultimately betrayed from within his own family. That reality has shaken Tom to his core, forcing him to question everything he believed about loyalty, legacy, and the true cost of protecting your own at any price. Now, he's watching the very values he once trusted crumble in real time. Nick's legal team, led by Alan Jackson, is reportedly fighting to keep key records sealed, claiming it's to protect the surviving family's privacy. But Tom's not staying silent. He's using his own legal channels to demand transparency. He believes secrecy is exactly what allows tragedies like this to repeat behind closed gates. Tom's message is sharp and raw. People need to see what addiction, resentment, and unchecked privilege can turn into when it's hidden behind money and status. He's done with soft language, dumb with silence. And now where? What's this? He wants the industry to finally face the truth and the consequences of looking away. As December fades and the year winds down, there's a heavy tension hanging over Los Angeles. You can feel it in the air, like the whole city's bracing for something big. This trial isn't just about one person anymore. It's about Hollywood being forced to stare in the mirror, a culture that's long chosen image over intervention and comfort over confrontation is finally being called out for what it is. Tom stepped into the lead, not for fame, not for attention, but because he says he's got nothing to gain and everything to lose. He doesn't need headlines. What he's demanding is truth, no matter how much it hurts. He's even addressed the quiet whispers about Rob Reiner's health, confirming that in the months before everything happened, Rob was physically worn down. Years of emotional strain had taken their toll, but he kept fighting, showing that same stubborn strength that defined him until the end. And Michelle, Tom says she was the glue, the steady heartbeat holding everything together when Rob couldn't. Losing both of them wasn't just an attack on two people. It tore apart the very foundation of the Reiner family, leaving a void no legacy or fame could ever fill. When Tom speaks about it, the emotion in his voice is raw. You can hear the heartbreak tangled with anger. This isn't performative outrage, it's real pain. Two people full of love, defenseless, taken after a lifetime of trying to protect their own. Tom says breaking his silence feels like a wall collapsing, years of hidden truths finally spilling out from behind Hollywood's perfect surface. Tom's not just talking about the Reiners anymore. He's calling out the entire system, the one that raises the children of Hollywood legends under unbearable pressure while shielding them from accountability. One of the most shocking things in Tom's message is that he doesn't see Nick as an isolated case. He sees him as a symptom of something much bigger, a broken culture that rewards entitlement, delays consequences, and mistakes silence for compassion. During a private address to his peers, Tom ended with a message that shook the room. Mourning isn't enough anymore. He says the industry has to rethink how it protects families before things spiral out of control. He wants Rob and Michelle remembered, not only for their creative brilliance, but as the spark that finally forces Hollywood to talk honestly about family intervention, emotional support, and what it really takes to survive under constant spotlight pressure. And Tom's not just talking, he's backing it up with action. Sources say he's already putting his own money behind a foundation in Rob and Michelle's names, focused on helping families navigate fame, pressure, and personal struggle before it's too late. One line from Tom's speech is already spreading fast across Hollywood. We can't just make stories about heroes, we have to be them at home. That message has hit everyone hard. As January 7th approaches, this trial is becoming less about what happened and more about why it was allowed to happen at all. Tom's revelations are setting the stage for one of the most emotionally charged courtroom moments Hollywood's ever seen. The upcoming trial is set to reveal everything, reports, timelines, and writings linked to Nick Reiner, all without Hollywood's usual spin. But because Tom Cruise stepped forward early, The story is being told the right way, through Rob and Michelle's truth, not through excuses. Insiders say the evidence is overwhelming, and even those tied to the forensic work quietly admit it. What happened inside that home lasted far longer than anyone wants to imagine. This wasn't chaos or impulse, it followed a chillingly deliberate timeline. What hit Tom hardest was learning that Rob and Michelle were found in separate parts of the house, suggesting confusion and heartbreak in their final moments. The thought of Rob Reiner, the man who brought millions joy with The Princess Bride, facing that kind of fear inside his own home, is something Tom can't shake. He believes that image will haunt Hollywood for years, a brutal reminder that no amount of fame or admiration can shield anyone from what happens behind closed doors. Every time Tom speaks, the glossy Hollywood image fades a little more, replaced by something raw, painful, and heartbreakingly real. Tom's not tearing down Rob's legacy, he's humanizing it. He wants people to remember, Rob wasn't some untouchable legend. He was a husband, a father, a man doing his best under impossible pressure. Tom says Rob didn't fall from weakness. He buckled under the kind of fame, expectation, and emotional strain that can break anyone when they face it alone. He believes Nick's actions didn't come from love, but from something darker that grew unchecked, even with all the light his parents tried to give. As Los Angeles braces for January, tension fills the air. Security's tightening around detention centers, and everyone knows this isn't just another court case. It's a reckoning. This trial could redefine how Hollywood talks about family pressure and the hidden cost of success. Leaks are spilling from every corner. Insiders are panicking. And right at the center of it all stands Tom, refusing to stay silent. Tom's turned his grief into purpose, fighting to protect the truth about Rob and Michelle Reiner from being twisted into gossip. For him, this isn't spectacle, it's a promise to family. As January 7th nears, legal insiders say this could become one of California's most watched trials in decades. But Tom says there's nothing compelling about it. It's unfinished mourning. Those close to him say he's told friends he won't return to work until accountability is seen in full. His old silence has become something louder, a demand shaking studios, boardrooms, and private circles across Hollywood. Even Castle Rock Entertainment is feeling the strain. Time described the final weeks as tense, with Rob stepping out of meetings to take urgent calls from Michelle, all about Nick's behavior spiraling again. What breaks Tom most isn't just what happened. It's knowing how hard they tried to hold everything together before it all collapsed. Tom says too many people saw the strain and stayed silent. Even him. He admits his silence made him part of the problem, and speaking now feels like responsibility, not exposure. Investigators later confirmed the injuries came from something ordinary inside the home, not an outside weapon, turning this from tragedy to pure betrayal. Tom says it's a collective failure, proof that Hollywood looked away while one of its own families fell apart, and now that truth can't be ignored. The trial has already exposed what's been hidden. Former staff revealing years of tension and quiet payoffs to protect the Reiner's image. Tom says this is the real Brentwood illusion. Image over truth. Silence over safety. He's fighting to keep Rob and Michelle Reiner remembered for love, not lies. With their sons trusting him to guard their legacy. That eerie calm before everything changed still haunts him. If you want the truth to keep spreading, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more updates.